How's it going, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well, and here are my thoughts on the second animation, Cubed. So my inspirations for doing this animation is, off the bat, after doing the Swarm animation in the Animators Guild Academy, which is, if you guys didn't know, the course school that I did to learn about the fundamentals of animation. After the Swarm animation, the ball bounce is the next thing I was taught. Now, if you guys did follow me on social media last year when I started getting my hands wet with animating, I did animate some ball bounces. But there was a time where I kind of didn't do it for a while, and I will admit I forgot some of the physics and fundamentals of the ball bounce. So for me to get back into the groove and uploading animations more frequently, I decided I'm going to go ahead and do another ball bounce animation. So it's like I do have an understanding of the ball bounce already, but it's like in order for me to be more consistent with this, I wanted to do another ball bounce animation just to continue and just to like taking that yes and approach of learning something and then taking what I learned and then making more complicated and better quality animations in the future. The other thing that inspired me to do this is moving objects in 3D space. I wanted to learn and work more with taking more solid objects, like for example the cube, and moving that in 3D space. I'll talk more about it in the things I needed to work on, but it's something that I'm very intrigued about, and I just love, drawing, simple objects in 3D space. And this gave me a good excuse to work on that. And one last inspiration I'll just want to throw out there right now is I'm just a big sucker for the underdog. I'm a big underdog, griff dog. I'm just a big sucker for the underdog and the person who, is count out and not many people look at, and seeing them succeed is fantastic. And I'm always a big fan of if someone does something wrong, they get their just desserts and they get their ass kicked. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So the things that I enjoyed and the things that I learned from this animation, number one thing, which is kind of a surprise, is line work. So with Toon Boom, which is the program I use to animate, there's actually a program where it's like after you draw a line, you can actually go ahead and you can take the lines and you can move them to where you want them to be. I only learned about this maybe a few months ago, and this animation was a good excuse for me to really utilize the line and help me work on that clean line work. Another big thing that I'm a big fan of is just the ball physics. I definitely feel like I was able to show that the ball was really bouncing and just the physics involved in it. Another big thing that I just saw is the camera shake. That's another feature on Toon Boom that I can do is I can move the entire camera, and just to show the weight of how massive this cube is, I was able to shake the cube. And in future animations, I plan to do more with camera work because that's in my wheelhouse. With my NASCAR videos back in the day, and then with my other work, the thing that I'm an absolute sucker for is camera work. So this was a good reintroduction for that aspect, and I hope to continue to work on that and improve on that, if you will. And then of course the other thing that I really enjoyed was drawing the face on the blob. I was originally going to do I wasn't going to draw eyes or a face on the blob, but it's I had extra time. Well, I shouldn't say I had extra time. It was something I wanted to do, and there was a moment where I thought I don't want to do the eyes. But at the last moment, I decided to take a little bit of extra time and frame by frame added the eyes to the ball bounce just to get kind of the initial go at facial expressions. And also the eyes give a bit of 3D space around the blob itself. So the things that I struggle with and I need to work on, the biggest thing is time management. I will admit that this week was a bit of a struggle for me to try to like get as much done with this animation as possible. Um, I also admit that I felt like I went a little too overboard with this animation. So your lesson for this thoughts video is animating on ones versus animating on twos. So in a movie, there are 24 frames or pictures in 1 second. In animation, it's the same. Now, when you animate on ones, it's like on every single frame for 24 frames, it's its own unique drawing. And you do that, and that's what this animation was. It was all on ones. Now, it's more smooth, which I do like, but it does take a lot more time to do that. Whereas on twos, you let the same drawing last for 2 frames versus 1, and thus you only have to draw 12 drawings in 1 second versus 24. And so it's a little bit, it's not big, but it is a little choppier. And I know that like there are certain instances where it's better to draw on ones versus twos, or even higher, threes or fours. In future videos, I'll explain more and talk more about that. And then the other thing that I'm a little meh on is some of the line work. I know I said that like I really learned like how to use it was like the contour line editor is what it's called. But I know that there are a couple of moments with the blob where it's not like a perfect circle. And I'm kind of battling on, you know, if I should have done like a perfect circle versus, because like with all the circles with the blob, I drew them all. And if I wanted to, there is like a circle, what do you want to call it? Like it helps you draw like or create a circle. But I would prefer just to draw it like myself. There's a little bit of that, I don't know, artsy touch. I don't know, it's just something that I much prefer. But I also know that the line work is a little inconsistent there. And then I also know with the cube, I know that some of the proportions in the 3D space wasn't really all that accurate. It got the job done, and you know that the cube is spinning like in the air. But if I would have spent more time and actually, you know, study the cube more, I feel like its proportions would be a lot more in sync. So my final thoughts, as I said at the beginning of this video, I really did push myself with this animation. And this is one of those things where it's like, I'm curious. Like, as I'm making this, like, I know that not as many people are watching these animations. Which is good because it lets me experiment more, but it also makes me realize like I don't have as much pressure to keep going with this. However, I am a little bit of a perfectionist, and it's one of those things where it's like quality does matter to me. And of course, like when I get these out, I want them to be, you know, I was immediately gonna say like the best they can be, but it's like I want it to get to a point where it's like I'm satisfied. And of course, like I'll have my own style, and there's no such thing as like the perfect art piece, but it's just something that I am working on, and I'm trying to like, you know, I want to enjoy, you know, the process. So as I said in the previous video, I've been waking up at 4:30 in the morning to, you know, work 1 to 2 hours on this animation. And I will admit, it's a bit of a struggle for sure, but I know like when I'm awake and when I'm like animating, like that is my time to animate. I don't want to work on it when I get home, because it's like I already am staring at a computer for like 8 to 10 hours already. And that's really my biggest problem, is trying to, you know, relax when I'm done with the day. I don't need to worry about social media. I don't need to worry about just having a shit ton of responsibilities. I just want to try to relax and, you know, be in the moment, which is something that, you know, I've, you know, been struggling with and I'm trying to, you know, work on. So, With that being said, there will be another animation coming out next week. Now, the good news with this animation is this is one I actually already started on back in like November. So all I'm doing with this animation is I'm going to be editing it and adding on to it so that it fits my minimum criteria of at least 15 seconds long. Yeah, and that's the last thing I need to remind myself is that my, range of like how long these animations are for, it should be at minimum 15 seconds, and then at max 30 seconds. Not worrying about audio, as you already aware with this animation. Not too worried about coloring, not too worried about shading, which is another part that I missed. I know I shaded a little bit of the cube, but the reason I did shade is just to show the different sides of the cube, and like realizing that like the light is coming in. And I know I could do more of shading, but for this week, that was not my focus. Shading is something I'll do later, and coloring is something that I'll do later. Yeah, and then that's the last thing is I am continuing to find my style, see what works, and I think the last thing I'll say, and it's kind of random, but so that movie that came out on Netflix called The Mitchells versus the Machines, I love the film a lot. It definitely speaks to me on a bit of a personal level with, just finding my own way and being the creative, weird self that a lot of people don't understand. And honestly, creating these animations is a good way for me to express myself. So, yeah, so I think I'll leave it at that. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. And make sure you hit that like button. And if you are not subscribed, these animations do come out once a week. So hit that darn subscribe button. And yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you guys for the support. This is, again, a long process, but stuff's happening, so yay. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and this is Griff Dog saying so long until next time.